Halloween Night has always felt like a unique level in the Rolling Sky lineup. It is currently the only 5-star level that has been upgraded to the 6-star category, which is honestly crazy to me. I remember when this level first came out, it was placed before both Halloween and Midnight Carnival, which implied that they thought those levels were harder than Halloween Night. For the longest time, many people disagreed with this, but finally in the Temple Fair update, they changed it from being a 5-star level to a 6-star, which most people seems to have been fine with. I do wonder though, was this the right choice? Does this level actually deserve to be a 6-star? Well, I decided to play this level somewhat recently at this point in time to determine this, and my findings have honestly made it hard for me to decide. So what I'm going to do is analyze certain parts of the gameplay to determine which parts are 6-star worthy sections and which parts are not. Please note, all that is said here is based on my own personal opinions. A lot of people seems content with the current placements, but I'm sure there are some that disagrees with this choice, and I thought it'd be interesting to discuss this and maybe bring new light into this. With all that said, let's start analyzing. Let's be real, the beginning on most levels are never consistent with the gameplay throughout. It's supposed to be easy to ease into the level, but it can also give you a general idea on what to expect. This part of the level has very straightforward gameplay that is pretty easy to sight read. One thing to note is that this part feels much quicker than most 6 stars, as it does pretty quickly throw you into the next section. Before talking about the actual hard part, I just quickly wanted to look over the easy part, as it is truly interesting. Yeah, there definitely isn't much going on here. It's noteworthy as in my head, a 6-star level should be hard throughout, and while yes, most people are going to go the harder route here, they really should have put more effort into this section as it's poorly done and honestly very sloppy. Now for the collectible route. There are 2 key things you need to do for this part. 1. Learn how portals work, and 2. Memorization. When the level first came out, this was the very first level that introduced these portals, and they were brutal to say the least. It had a very different feel from any other mechanic at this point in time, as you pretty much had to remember that when you go through one of them, you had to take your finger and or thumb off the screen. And even then, the gameplay was very janky and could be a bit unpredictable, as even today, my ball goes flying off the screen sometimes with no explanation. Whee! If a newer player played this, I feel it would be much easier for them now as they have newer levels they can practice this gameplay feature on. Now it's time to talk about part 2, memory. There is a lot of skill in this section, of course, but it also takes a lot of memory. Remembering where to fall can be a pain when you're learning this, as it really does get confusing. But since it's so memory based, once you have it down, it's pretty hard to forget. I have very little problem in this section when I was trying to get a recording. It's honestly just in my muscle memory at this point in time, and that really does come down to how early on this section is in the level. You will be replaying this part a lot, which will give you a lot of practice. So with all that said, would I consider this section 6-star worthy? I'm on the fence, as on one hand, it was a nightmare to get down, but on the other hand, since I have it down, it's really freaking easy. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say it is 6-star worthy, as it is extremely confusing when you first come to it.
This is a long section, and for good reason. It's fucking easy. Lol. There are areas that could maybe throw you off when you're first playing it, but it is really easy once you know what you're doing. Though there is one notable part in this section, the 4th box location.
Yes, my husband made a cameo in this video. Deal with it. This box location is definitely one of the harder locations in this level due to the narrow space you have to fit through just to hit the first jump pad. I do it differently here in my main recording. I'd say it's easier just by a little bit, at least for me. The normal way requires an additional fast move to get. So overall, this section is definitely not a 6-star. Honestly, it feels too easy to even be considered a 5-star, though the box location definitely does give it that extra edge, so in the end, I will say it's at least 5-star worthy. Now this section is a prime example of a 5-star area. It's complex with some confusing parts, but nothing too extreme. This section we once again meet the portal, where here it leads to both a gem and a box location. Thankfully, this part is nowhere near as hard as the first area with the portal, but it can be pretty hard to get the feel due to the hole that appears pretty much right ahead of you as soon as you make it to the top section. Thankfully though, if you manage to not fall, collecting the gem in the box is pretty easy. After that, there is another straightforward section, once again leading you to another box and gem route. Thankfully, this one is much easier to figure out, though the box here can be a bit difficult if you don't move far enough to the left. After that, it leads us to the last gem, which just like Cube, is only in the middle of the level. I'd like to mention, why was this done? I really don't like it when all the gems are crammed into the beginning and middle section. I really wish they would have spread them out much more throughout the level, as having the last gem being at 67%, it's so odd. Anyways, now let's talk about the hardest section in the level. If there was a reason for this level being upgraded to a 6-star, this section would definitely be why, as it goes hard. 73 to 75% is very similar to Deep Space at 80 to 82%, where it requires very fast and precise movements, and where it is very easy to crash or lose a shield. Though after that, you are thrown into the hardest section in this level with the moving tiles. This section is an absolute pain to read, and it's very easy to mess up if you don't know exactly what you're doing. This right here is the definition of pure skill and can be a nightmare to figure out. Even once you do have it, it's definitely the biggest choke point in the level, as it's so easy to just fuck up. 80 to 82% is pretty easy, but the part after that is deceivingly hard. It is so easy to accidentally hit an obstacle, as the way they're placed, it's hard to predict where you're supposed to go. You once again have to be very precise with the movements, as it's very easy to crash into the obstacles. The box location at 85% is also very deceiving, as it's very easy to miss due to the jump pad to the left. The gate at 87% can also be a pain if you don't know what to do, as your instinct is to go for the jump pads, but you have to delay your movement, as if you move too early, you will crash into the gate, but you have to move early enough as well to not fall. The last section is a huge choke point. If you know what you're doing and your nerves don't get the better of you, it's pretty easy, but it's still also very easy to mess up. The 9th box location is pretty much full memory. You just need to know which jump pads to hit. That then leads to a part similar to the ending of Midnight Carnival, where there's a bunch of sliding blocks which can be confusing if you don't know where they are moving to. Then after that, you are led to an arrow pad section, where you have to hit both arrow pads and hope you remember to hit the jump pad to the right, which gets you to the very last box location. Sadly though, that's not it, as you simply cannot go straight ahead. You have to go around some obstacles before you finally reach the end of this godforsaken level. When I played this level when it initially came out, it took me so long to be able to perfect it, and even with that said, I still ended up losing 2 shields with my recording. I was scared to make this video, as I really felt deep down I would struggle to relearn this level and would struggle to get a recording. Weirdly enough, that didn't end up being a problem. It took me 30 minutes to relearn this level, along with getting not 1 but 2 perfect recordings of this level. The first one I did lose a shield, but after feeling the level out, I felt confident that I would be able to do this without a shield, and lo and behold, I was. If anyone watches my gameplays frequently enough, you will know that I do depend on shields and flying power-ups a little too much, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I really don't have a choice with that, as I'm just too busy to really hammer in my skills for each level, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice even if it's looked down upon. I really mean it though when I say I thought I'd struggle with this level more, and was genuinely surprised I didn't. Compared to when I practiced this level in February of 2019, where it took me multiple hours to get a shitty recording, this time after playing it 6 years later and only spending 30 minutes on it has honestly made it really difficult for me to say how I truly feel about this level and the difficulty of it. When I thought about making this video, I really did think it'd be a waste of time, as I really did feel I would conclude that this level was valid to become a 6-star, but now I'm heavily debating whether or not that's true. It makes complete sense that when this level first came out, everyone saying it should be a 6-star was completely valid, as the difficulty of this level at the time was definitely comparable to a 6-star, even with some saying that it was harder than Happy Birthday, which I fully disagree on. But nowadays, it really does feel much easier than it did back then. I might be wrong with saying this, but I feel most people are making this judgment based on how they felt when they first played the level rather than comparing it to how it is now. If you haven't played this level in a while, give it a go and see how it actually feels, as I really do get the impression that it's people played it more now, then maybe someone would agree it's actually much easier than it felt beforehand. Now, with all that said, it's about time I answer the question. My final thought is honestly, fix the rating system! With how the difficulty rating system is now, I seriously cannot conclude how this should be fixed. The issue I'm running into with this is that neither this level or New Year feels like a 5 or a 6-star. They are both too difficult for a 5-star, but they also feel too easy for being a 6-star, and it's honestly quite frustrating. In a perfect world, my solution would be, like I said in the 5-star problem video, they really need to at least add one more difficulty ranking. That would be the 7-star category. Now my solution with all this would be upgrading almost all of the 6-stars into the 7-star category. The only 2 levels that wouldn't be upgraded would be New Year and Halloween Night, and then moving only the really hard 5-stars into the 6-star category. That is not including Pipeline. Pipeline would be a 7-star. Fight me on that, Minimax! But since we don't live in a perfect world, and I know this won't ever happen, if there was something they could do that I would be content with, that would be switching New Year and Halloween Night. Look y'all, I know most of y'all think Halloween Night is harder, but I just don't feel like it is. The issue with Halloween Night is that the difficulty is very inconsistent throughout the level. Yeah, the ending is freaking hard, but a lot of the middle section is really easy. New Year is, for the most part, consistently hard throughout. Yes, I would say Halloween Night definitely has the harder parts, but the easier parts really do ruin the placement for me, as they're just too long. So yes, in the end, with how things are right now, I would say that Halloween Night should stay a 6-star. I say this with hesitation though, as again, I just don't personally feel it deserves that honor. But it's fine in the end. I really doubt anything will change, but at least have gotten my thoughts out there. Thank you for watching, and let me know what y'all think.